Hey everybody, it's Pastor Vance with the daily devotional from February 7th, 2022. Today's Bible readings are from Matthew chapter 13, 1 to 23, Acts chapter 18, verses 18 to 28, Psalm 30, and Exodus 19 and 20. Want to just share with you as I was reading through Acts, and we've been studying through the book of Acts for a long while now, verse by verse in our Sunday school class. So this kind of reading through it again after we've studied some of those passages helps me to see some things in a new way, remind me of things that we kind of saw the first time. And we're introduced to Apollos in this passage, and we're told Apollos is this very eloquent speaker who knew the scriptures. That's what 18:24 says. He'd been taught the way of the Lord. And now he was teaching others about it. And so here he is teaching others about the way of Jesus. But he only knows the baptism of John. He doesn't have the full story. So here he is teaching and he's leading others. And Aquila and Priscilla, these companions of Paul, who had traveled with him to Ephesus where they're at, who were Christians before Paul, who had been in Rome and were part of a apparent Christian movement there. They pull Apollos aside. They hear him preaching. They hear he has this gift. He has this ability. And they say, hey, but you don't understand it all yet. Let's explain. Here's the words. Explained the way of God even more accurately. Not that he was wrong, but he didn't have the full picture. And so they go and they explain the way of Jesus even more. They explain more about who Jesus is. And then we see that he moves on from there. He writes to these believers in Achaia, and then he arrives there and begins to preach to them, and then becomes one of the first apologists. It says he refuted the Jews with powerful arguments in public debate, and he used the scriptures to explain that Jesus was the Messiah. That's different than what he was doing in Ephesus. He has come to this fuller understanding and is now able to go out and argue with the debate, the most learned people of the area, and use the scriptures to prove that Jesus was the Messiah, which is what Paul had been doing. And so Apollos could have, here's what I have kind of gleaned from that today. It takes somebody that's humble to be in a position where you are teaching and leading and people are compelled by that. People are moved by it. And you're effective in encouraging life-changing people. For somebody to pull you aside and say, hey, what you're doing is great, but you don't understand it all. It takes humility that comes from God for you to say, I'm going to listen to what you say, and I'm going to allow myself to be convinced by you in the same way that I convince others. He could have been prideful and said, hey, I'm pretty successful. I think I've got this pretty much figured out. I think I already understand Scripture and I'm right, and have rejected what Aquila and Priscilla did. But instead, he was humble, he listened, he learned, he grew, and became more effective in what he was doing for God because of it. We should never get to a place where we think we've learned enough, or we know enough, or we grow enough that we shouldn't continue to listen to the voices that God puts around us, the people that God brings in our lives, the messages, the sermons, the books. There are always places where you're going to hear things that maybe they're not even new, but they just open your eyes in a new way and help you see some things that maybe you hadn't seen fully before. Maybe you've grown enough where now you can understand some more, as Paul says in his writings. Now, you don't have to eat baby food anymore. You can start to eat meat. You can get into something deeper. Maybe you just weren't ready for that kind of meal. You weren't ready to swallow that kind of teaching before, and now you're ready. And so I would just encourage you to never be prideful enough to think that you don't have to continue your pursuit of the knowledge and understanding of Jesus Christ. Every single one of us is growing and knowing more. Even the most learned scholar is learning new things about Jesus. The experts on Jesus, their eyes are being opened to new things about Jesus, reading his word and seeing things they hadn't seen before. Apollos is a great example for us, for even when we are living right for God, we're being successful, we're being used by him, we're serving him, we're doing all that, there's still room for growth. God's still working on us, and that we should always be humble enough to receive the encouragement and teaching of people around us so that we can become more effective in living out our faith for Jesus Christ. I encourage you to continue in your pursuit of knowledge and understanding, and to never think that you have it figured all out, and never listen to anybody who thinks that they have it all figured out. Humbly learn more, humbly grow, and then humbly give to those who need to hear what you have received.